Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the main window of the space station watching the stars. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he did not care. The reports on his desk told a story that made his stomach turn. 300 alien ships were coming toward Earth, and they were big. Each ship was the size of a small city and packed with weapons that could turn mountains into dust. Captain Lisa Bennett walked into the room holding more bad news. Her face was pale, and her hands shook a little as she handed him the latest intel report. The Zephyrian Armada had just finished destroying the human colonies around Alpha Centauri. There were no survivors. Entire worlds had been turned to glass and metal. The aliens had not even bothered to land troops. They just burned everything from space. Jake looked at the numbers again. Earth had 50 ships total. The best ships from every nation on Earth had been brought together for this fight. The USS Liberty was there along with ships from China and Russia and Europe. But 50 ships against 300 was not a fight. It was a massacre waiting to happen. Lisa sat down in the chair across from his desk. She had been working for 3 days straight trying to plan some kind of defense. Her eyes were red from staring at computer screens, and her uniform was wrinkled. She was one of the smartest military minds on Earth, but even she knew the truth. They were going to lose, and lose badly. The evacuation ships had been leaving Earth for 2 weeks now. Millions of people were being moved to the outer colonies, but there was not enough time. Most people would have to stay and hope for the best. The president had given a speech telling everyone to stay calm, but Jake could see the fear in people's eyes when he walked through the station. Commander Roy Sullivan burst through the door without knocking. His face was excited and confused at the same time. He was carrying a tablet computer and breathing hard like he had been running. Roy was in charge of watching space around Earth with all the big telescopes and radar systems. Roy put the tablet on Jake's desk and started talking fast. The alien ships had been moving toward Earth at a steady speed for weeks. They were past Neptune now and should reach Earth in less than 2 days. But something strange was happening. 3 ships had just disappeared from all the sensors. Jake looked at the screen showing the alien fleet. The computer was tracking each ship with a small dot of light. As he watched, one of the dots simply vanished. Then another one disappeared, and 5 more ships went missing all at once. The computer kept trying to find them, but they were just gone. Lisa grabbed the tablet and started checking the data. She was an expert at reading sensor information, and her face got more confused as she studied the numbers. The ships were not exploding or breaking apart. They were not moving away at high speed. They were just there 1 second and gone the next. More ships started disappearing faster now. Jake watched as clusters of alien vessels vanished from the screen. Roy was talking to his team over the radio, trying to figure out what was happening. All the telescopes and sensors around Earth were seeing the same thing. The Zephyrian fleet was shrinking by the hour. Dr. Helen Brooks came running into the room holding her own computer. She was the best scientist they had for studying alien life and technology. Her gray hair was messy, and she was wearing the same lab coat she had worn for days. She had been working around the clock, trying to understand Zephyrian weapons and defenses. Helen put her computer next to Roy's tablet and showed them both screens. Her sensors were picking up strange energy readings from the area where the ships were disappearing. The energy was unlike anything in human or alien technology. It was not nuclear power or antimatter or anything they had seen before. Jake felt a chill run down his back. In 30 years of military service, he had learned to trust his instincts. When something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. The aliens were not just running away or having technical problems. Something was making them disappear, and that something had power beyond anything humans had ever seen. Lisa was talking to the fleet commanders on her radio. The human ships were still ready to fight, but there were fewer and fewer targets every hour. The captains were confused and scared. They had prepared to die defending Earth, but now they did not know what they were supposed to do. Roy's team kept reporting more disappearances. The alien fleet was now down to less than 200 ships, then 100 ships, then 50 ships. The Zephyrian armada that had destroyed 3 human colonies was melting away, like ice in the sun. Helen's energy readings were getting stronger. Whatever was causing the disappearances was getting more active. She showed Jake a graph of the energy. Patterns. They came in waves that matched exactly with when ships vanished. Something was actively hunting the alien fleet. Jake walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. Earth looked peaceful from up here. The blue and green planet was spinning slowly, with white clouds covering parts of the continents. It was hard to believe that somewhere out there an entire alien invasion force was being destroyed by an unknown enemy. The last Zephyrian ship disappeared just as the sun was rising over Earth. Roy confirmed it 3 times before he believed it himself. 300 warships that had been heading toward Earth were completely gone. There was no trace of them anywhere. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no radio signals. It was like they had never existed at all. Lisa sat down heavily in her chair. The defense fleet was standing down, but nobody was celebrating yet. They all knew that whatever had saved them was far more powerful than anything humans possessed. Jake stared out at the stars and wondered what kind of force could make an entire alien fleet simply vanish. The world would celebrate when the news got out. People would dance in the streets and thank God for their salvation. But Jake Morrison felt only fear. Something was out there protecting Earth, and it had power that made both human and alien technology look like toys. The question that kept him awake was simple. What did it want in return? 6 months had passed since the Zephyrian fleet disappeared, and Earth was starting to feel safe again. People had gone back to their normal lives, and the emergency shelters were empty. But Admiral Jake Morrison could not shake the feeling that something was still watching them from the dark spaces between the stars. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Jackson was piloting her scout ship through the outer edges of the solar system when the new threat appeared on her sensors. At first, it looked like a small asteroid field moving toward Earth, but as she got closer, the truth became clear. These were not rocks floating in space. They were ships, and there were hundreds of them. Amy's hands moved quickly over her controls. As she sent the alarm back to Earth, the new fleet was bigger than the Zephyrian Armada had been. Her computer counted 500 ships, and they were all heading straight toward the solar system. The ships had a different design from the Zephyrians, but they looked just as deadly. General Pete Collins received Amy's report at Earth Defense Command. He had been hoping they would have years to prepare for the next attack, but apparently the universe had other plans. Pete looked at the data streaming in from Amy's scout ship and felt his heart sink. The new ships belonged to the Corradian Empire, and everyone knew what that meant. The Corradians had a reputation for being brutal and efficient. They did not take prisoners or negotiate treaties. When they wanted a planet, they simply destroyed everything on it and built their own cities in the ashes. Intelligence reports said they had weapons that could crack planets in half, and shields that could stop nuclear bombs. Pete activated the emergency protocols and called every ship commander in the human fleet. Within hours, the defense force was moving into position around Earth. The ships looked tiny compared to what was coming, but they were all humanity had. Pete knew his people would fight to the end, even if they had no chance of winning. Dr. Marcus Bell was working in his laboratory when the new threat was announced. He had spent the last 6 months studying the energy readings from the Zephyrian disappearance, and he was starting to understand what had happened. The patterns in the data suggested some kind of advanced technology, but it was unlike anything humans or aliens had ever built. Marcus grabbed his research files and ran toward the command center. If his theories were correct, then whoever had saved them before might do it again. But this time, he wanted to be ready to learn more about their mysterious protector. He had modified several sensors to detect the strange energy signatures that had appeared during the first incident. Captain Nina Torres was commanding the research ship Discovery when she received orders to monitor the approaching Karadian fleet. Her ship was fast and well equipped with the latest sensors, but it was not built for fighting. Nina's job was to stay hidden and gather as much information as possible about the alien ships and whatever might happen to them. The Karadian fleet was impressive and terrifying at the same time. Each ship was covered in armor plating and bristling with weapons. Nina could see massive gun turrets that looked like they could blow apart asteroids with a single shot. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, like they had done this 1,000 times before. Amy Jackson flew her scout ship alongside the Discovery as they shadowed the alien fleet from a safe distance. She had volunteered for the dangerous mission because she wanted to see what would happen when the Karadians reached Earth. Her instruments were recording everything and sending the data back to Earth in real time. The alien fleet passed Jupiter without slowing down. The Karadian ships ignored the human space stations and mining facilities in the area. They had come for Earth, and nothing else mattered to them. Amy watched as the alien formation spread out into attack positions as they approached the inner solar system. Marcus Bell was monitoring his special sensors when the first Karadian ship disappeared. The energy signature was exactly the same as what he had detected during the Zephyrian incident. Whatever was protecting Earth was active again, and it was using the same impossible technology to make the alien ships vanish. But this time, Marcus was ready. His sensors caught glimpses of something else mixed in with the energy readings. There were brief moments when his instruments detected what looked like ships, but they were using some kind of stealth technology that made them almost invisible. The shapes appeared for just a few seconds before disappearing again. Nina Torres watched through her telescopes as more Karadian ships began to vanish. The aliens were trying to fight back this time. She could see them firing their weapons at empty space and launching missiles at targets that were not there. But nothing they did seemed to help. One by one, the great warships simply disappeared from existence. The Karadian fleet commanders were sending frantic radio messages to each other. Amy's translation computers picked up words like impossible and unknown enemy and retreat immediately. But before any of the ships could turn around and run, they were gone. The entire 500-ship armada vanished in less than 12 hours. Dr. Marcus Bell studied his sensor data with growing excitement. The energy patterns were stronger this time, and he had caught several clear readings of the mysterious protector ships. Whatever was defending Earth had technology that could bend space and time in ways that seemed to break the laws of physics. The stealth systems alone were centuries ahead of anything humans could build. Pete Collins stood in the command center watching the last Karadian ship disappear from the tracking screens. Earth was safe again, but the questions were multiplying. 2 different alien empires had sent their best fleets to conquer Earth, and both times the fleets had simply vanished. Something was out there protecting humanity, and it had power beyond imagination. Amy Jackson flew her scout ship back toward Earth, thinking about what she had witnessed. The mysterious defenders had not tried to communicate with the human ships. They had simply eliminated the threat and disappeared again. Amy wondered if they were watching right now from their invisible ships. Hidden somewhere in the darkness of space. Nina Torres collected her research data and prepared her report for Earth Command. She had recorded energy readings and sensor contacts that would keep scientists busy for years. But the most important discovery was the pattern. Whatever was protecting Earth was not just reacting to threats. It was actively hunting alien fleets and removing them with surgical precision. Marcus Bell worked through the night analyzing every piece of data from both incidents. The technology signatures were consistent and the energy patterns matched perfectly. Earth had a guardian, and that guardian had been watching over them for who knows how long. The question now was whether humanity was ready to learn the truth about their mysterious protector. Dr. Kate Phillips had been working in the deep archives of the Lunar Archaeological Institute for 3 months when she found the file that changed everything. She was looking through old excavation reports from Mars when she noticed something strange. Several dig sites had uncovered structures that were much older than they should have been according to human colonization records. The structures were buried deep under the Martian soil and showed signs of advanced technology. But the dating tests said they were thousands of years old. That was impossible because humans had only been on Mars for about 50 years. Kate stared at the photographs of strange metal walls and unknown symbols carved into stone. Sam Rogers was a cryptographer who worked for Earth Intelligence Agency. He was the best codebreaker in the solar system, and Kate had asked him to help decode the symbols found in the Martian ruins. Sam had been working on the project for weeks, and his office was covered with papers showing different symbol combinations. Sam called Kate to his office on a cold Tuesday morning. He looked tired but excited as he showed her his latest work. The symbols were not random decorations or alien writing. They were a form of ancient human language that had been lost for thousands of years. The symbols told a story that contradicted everything humans believed about their own history. According to the decoded text, humans had once been a spacefaring civilization with technology far beyond what they had now. The ancient humans had built cities among the stars and traveled between planets as easily as people now traveled between countries. But something terrible had happened that forced them to abandon their colonies and return to Earth. Kate felt her hands shaking as she read Sam's translation. The ancient text spoke of a great war that had lasted for centuries. The enemy was not described clearly, but they seemed to be other beings who wanted to steal human technology. The war had been so devastating that the surviving humans had chosen to hide on primitive worlds and forget their advanced past. Commander Jack Hughes led a covert investigation team that studied the disappearing alien fleets. His job was to find out what had happened to the missing ships and whether they posed a threat to Earth. Jack had been a military investigator for 20 years, and he knew how to find answers that other people missed. Jack's team had been tracking energy signatures and sensor contacts throughout the solar system. They had discovered something amazing that was being kept secret from the public. The alien ships that disappeared were not being destroyed. They were being moved to distant star systems far away from Earth, where they could not cause any trouble. Evidence was clear from studying radio signals and gravitational disturbances. Entire fleets were being transported across light years of space instantly. Whatever was protecting Earth had mastery over space and time that seemed almost magical. Jack wondered what kind of beings could move massive starships like they were. Toys. Colonel Mary Franklin was in charge of the Xenological Defense Initiative, which studied alien threats to humanity. She had access to classified reports from colonies throughout human space, and she was starting to see a pattern that nobody else had noticed. The mysterious protectors were not just defending Earth. Mary's files contained hundreds of reports from frontier colonies about strange incidents. Damaged equipment would be mysteriously repaired overnight. Food supplies would appear when settlements were running out. Rescue ships would arrive to help colonists who had not even sent distress calls yet. Something was watching over all of humanity, not just the home world. Dr. Elena Price worked in the Advanced Physics Laboratory, where she studied the quantum signatures left behind by the protective technology. Her instruments could detect energy patterns that lasted for days after each incident. Elena had never seen anything like the readings she was getting from her sensors. The energy signatures suggested that whoever was protecting Earth was using consciousness-driven technology. The quantum patterns looked like they were being controlled by living minds rather than computer programs. Elena's theories suggested that their protectors had somehow learned to merge their thoughts directly with their machines. Kate Phillips called a secret meeting with Sam Rogers and the other researchers who had been studying the ancient human texts. They met in a secure conference room deep under the Lunar Institute where no one could overhear them. Kate had made a discovery that would shock the world if it ever became public knowledge. The ancient texts contained coordinates for hidden sites throughout the solar system. The coordinates pointed to locations where the old human civilization had built secret bases and storage facilities. Kate believed these sites might still exist and contain technology from humanity's forgotten past. If they could find these places, they might finally understand who was protecting Earth and why Sam had decoded more of the ancient language and found references to something called the Watchers. According to the texts, the Watchers were humans who had chosen to remain hidden and guard their sleeping brothers and sisters. They had sworn to protect humanity until the day when their people were ready to reclaim their heritage among the stars. Jack Hughes shared his findings about the relocated alien fleets with the research team. His investigation had revealed that the missing ships were being placed in uninhabited systems where they could not threaten anyone. But more importantly, the aliens were being left alive. Their protectors were not destroying enemies, but simply removing them from the battlefield. Mary Franklin brought her colony reports to the meeting and showed how the protective incidents stretched back for decades. Every human settlement in space had stories about mysterious help arriving at just the right moment. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. Humanity had guardians who had been watching over them for generations. Elena Price explained her quantum consciousness theories to the group. The energy patterns she detected suggested that their protectors had evolved beyond normal human limitations. They had somehow learned to exist as pure thought energy while still maintaining their identity and memories. They were still human, but they had become something more. Kate looked around the room at her fellow researchers and felt the weight of what they had discovered. Humans were not alone in the galaxy, and they were not helpless against alien threats. They had family out there in the darkness. Ancient humans who had transcended physical form, but still remembered their duty to protect their younger brothers and sisters. The question now was what to do with this knowledge. Should they tell the world that humanity's mysterious protectors were actually their own ancestors? Should they try to make contact with the Watchers who had been guarding them in secret? Kate knew that whatever they decided would change the future of human civilization forever. Dr. Rachel Stone had been working on the ancient Martian texts for 6 weeks when she finally cracked the complete message. She was a language expert who specialized in dead civilizations, but nothing had prepared her for what she found hidden in the symbols. The text told the full story of humanity's forgotten past, and it was more incredible than anyone had imagined. According to the ancient records, humans had once been the masters of the galaxy. They had built an empire that stretched across thousands of star systems and developed technology that could reshape reality itself. But their success had made them enemies. Other alien races had joined together to steal human knowledge and destroy their civilization. The war that followed had lasted for millions of years. The ancient humans had fought bravely, but they were outnumbered by the combined alien forces. As defeat became certain, the human leaders made a desperate choice. They would hide their people on primitive worlds and erase their memories of advanced technology. The aliens would think humanity was extinct, while the survivors slowly rebuilt their strength. But some humans had refused to hide. These volunteers had used experimental technology to transform themselves into beings of pure energy and consciousness. They became the Watchers, who would guard their sleeping people until the day came for humanity to reclaim its place among the stars. The Watchers had been protecting Earth and human colonies for thousands of generations. Captain Bill Hayes commanded the Deep Space Exploration Ship Pioneer when he received orders to investigate coordinates found in the ancient texts. The coordinates pointed to a location in an asteroid field beyond Pluto, where satellites had detected strange energy readings. Bill had been chosen for the mission because he was known for staying calm in dangerous situations. Bill's ship approached the coordinates carefully while scanning for any signs of activity. At first, the asteroid field looked normal, but as they got closer, their instruments began picking up artificial structures hidden among the rocks. There was a space station built inside one of the larger asteroids, and it was actively scanning their ship. The station was impossibly old, but it looked like it had been built yesterday. The metal surfaces showed no signs of wear or damage, despite being exposed to space for thousands of years. Strange lights pulsed along the hull in patterns that seemed almost alive. Bill felt his heart racing as he realized they had found one of the ancient human bases. A voice spoke directly into Bill's mind without using any radio equipment. The voice was calm and friendly, but Bill could sense incredible power behind the words. The speaker identified itself as the Keeper and said it had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Humanity was finally ready to learn the truth about their heritage. Bill and his crew were invited to dock with the ancient station. They put on their spacesuits and crossed through an airlock that sealed behind them automatically. Inside the station, the air was breathable and gravity felt normal. The corridors were filled with displays showing star maps and technical information that was far beyond current human understanding. The Keeper peered to them as a glowing figure made of pure light and energy. It had once been human, but had transcended physical form long ago. The Keeper explained that it was one of many Watchers who had volunteered to guard humanity during their long sleep. They had been protecting Earth and the colonies for thousands of years, while waiting for their people to grow strong enough to face the galaxy again. Dr. Lavra Adams was part of Bill's crew, and she was amazed by the technology she saw in the ancient station. The Keeper showed her machines that could manipulate matter at the atomic level and computers that used human consciousness as their operating system. Everything was designed to work with the human mind in ways that other species could never duplicate. The Keeper revealed that human brains were uniquely compatible with quantum technology because of genetic modifications made millions of years ago. This made humans incredibly valuable to alien civilizations who wanted to steal their abilities, but it also made them incredibly dangerous when they reached their full potential. The Watchers had been carefully managing human development to keep them safe while they slowly regained their strength. Commander Steve Parker learned that many of humanity's greatest discoveries had been guided by the Watchers. The development of spaceflight and faster-than-light travel had been subtly influenced by Watchers who planted ideas in the minds of human scientists. Even the formation of Earth's unified government had been encouraged by their hidden guardians. Keeper showed them recordings of the ancient war that had forced humanity into hiding. The enemy alliance had included dozens of alien species who feared human technological superiority. They had used weapons that could destroy entire star systems and fleets that numbered in the millions. The ancient humans had fought bravely, but they were simply overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of their enemies. But the war had ended differently than the aliens expected. Instead of being destroyed, humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. The alien alliance had searched for centuries, trying to find the hidden human colonies, but the Watchers had kept their people safe. Now, after thousands of years, the aliens had forgotten about the human threat and grown complacent. Bill Hayes asked the most important question of all. Why were the Watchers revealing themselves now after hiding for so long? The Keeper's answer chilled him to the bone. Multiple alien empires had noticed that fleets sent to Earth kept disappearing. They were starting to investigate and ask questions. Soon they would realize that humanity was being protected by advanced technology. The hegemony of worlds was already assembling the largest war fleet in galactic history to investigate Earth's mysterious defenses. Over 2,000 ships armed with planet-killing weapons were heading toward the solar system. Even the Watchers could not make a fleet that size disappear without every major power in the galaxy taking notice. The time for hiding was over. Humanity would have to choose between remaining protected but limited or accepting their true heritage and taking responsibility for defending themselves. The Keeper warned that awakening to their ancient abilities would make humans incredibly powerful, but it would also paint a target on Earth that could never be erased. The choice belonged to humanity now. They could stay as they were and let the Watchers handle this threat like all the others. Or they could reclaim their birthright as the galaxy's original masters and face whatever consequences that brought. But either way, the age of humanity's childhood was coming to an end, and the universe would never be the same again. The emergency meeting was held in the most secure conference room on Earth. Admiral Jake Morrison sat at the head of the table looking at the faces of humanity's leaders. President Williams was there, along with the heads of every major space agency and military command. The holographic display in the center of the room showed 2,000 alien ships moving toward Earth like a swarm of angry hornets. The hegemony of worlds had assembled ships from 12 different alien species. Each vessel was larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced. Intelligence reports said the fleet carried weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop entire solar flares. This was not just an invasion force, but an extermination fleet designed to solve the Earth problem once and for all. Captain Lisa Bennett stood before the assembled leaders holding the communication device the Keeper had given them. The device looked like a simple crystal, but it contained a direct link to the ancient station where humanity's fate would be decided. Lisa had volunteered to be the first human to undergo the awakening process if the leaders chose to accept their heritage. Keeper's message was clear through the crystal communicator. The Watchers could not hide a fleet this large without revealing themselves to the entire galaxy. If they used their full power to destroy the hegemony ships, every alien civilization would know that Earth was protected by technology beyond their understanding. The secret that had kept humanity safe for thousands of years would be exposed forever. President Williams asked the question that everyone was thinking. What would happen if humanity chose to awaken to their ancient abilities? The Keeper explained that every human carried dormant genetic modifications that would activate once the quantum locks were released. Humans would be able to interface directly with technology using only their thoughts and consciousness. Dr. Helen Brooks had studied the genetic scans that the Keeper provided. Every person on Earth and in the colonies carried the same modified DNA sequences. The changes were so subtle that human scientists had never noticed them, but they were the key to everything. Human intuition and creativity were not just evolutionary advantages, but the result of millions of years of technological integration. The choice was put to a vote among Earth's leadership council. Some argued for staying hidden and letting the Watchers protect them as they always had. Others said that humanity deserved to know the truth about their past and reclaim their rightful place in the galaxy. The debate went on for hours while the alien fleet continued moving toward Earth. Jake Morrison cast the deciding vote. He had spent his entire career protecting Earth, and he knew that hiding would only work for so long. Eventually, the truth would come out and humanity would face their enemies without preparation. Better to awaken now while they still had the Watchers to guide them through the process. Lisa Bennett was the first to enter the awakening chamber on the ancient station. The room was filled with machines that hummed with energy and pulsed with the same light as the Keeper itself. Lisa lay down on a platform in the center of the room, while quantum field generators surrounded her with streams of glowing particles. The process began, slowly as the genetic locks in Lisa's DNA started to release. She could feel her consciousness expanding beyond the limits of her physical body. Suddenly, she could perceive the approaching alien fleet, not just as dots on a screen, but as living entities with thoughts and fears and intentions. The sensation was overwhelming, but also exhilarating, like remembering how to use muscles she had forgotten she possessed. Back on Earth, the awakening process spread to every human settlement in the solar system. The quantum field generated by the ancient station reached across space to activate the dormant genes in millions of people. Children stopped playing to stare at the sky with new understanding. Scientists suddenly grasped concepts that had puzzled them for years. Engineers found they could design impossible machines through pure intuition. Commander Steve Parker was piloting his fighter when the awakening hit him. His consciousness merged with his ship's computer systems, and he could feel every circuit and sensor as if they were part of his own body. He could navigate hyperspace by sensing the currents of quantum foam that flowed between the stars. Space itself became as familiar as walking down a street. Dr. Laura Adams discovered that the universe was far more malleable than anyone had dreamed. Matter and energy could be reshaped by focused thought when guided by the right technology. The laws of physics were more like suggestions that could be bent by beings who understood the deeper patterns underlying reality. The hegemony fleet arrived at Earth expecting to find a primitive world defended by mysterious guardians. Instead, they found the homeworld of their galaxy's original masters, and humanity was no longer hiding. Human ships appeared around the alien fleet using stealth technology that made them invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the human response from his flagship. His consciousness was linked to every ship in the fleet, and he could coordinate their movements with perfect precision. The human vessels moved like a single organism responding to his thoughts and intentions. The aliens had never seen anything like the seamless cooperation of the awakened human forces. The alien fleet commanders sent frantic messages to each other as they realized what they were facing. Their sensors could barely detect the human ships, even when they were right in front of them. The technology being displayed was centuries beyond anything in the hegemony arsenal. They had come to investigate a mystery and found themselves confronting their worst nightmare. Captain Lisa Bennett spoke for all of humanity when she opened communications with the alien fleet. Her voice carried the authority of someone who had awakened to her true heritage. She explained that Earth was under the protection of its rightful inhabitants, and that any hostile action would be met with consequences the aliens could not imagine. The hegemony ships made a choice that would echo throughout galactic history. Faced with technology that seemed to bend reality itself, they requested not conquest, but peaceful contact with the species that had just reminded the galaxy why humans had once been its undisputed masters. The age of hiding was over, and the age of humanity's return to the stars had finally begun. Jake Morrison looked out at the stars from his command bridge and smiled. Earth was safe, and humanity had reclaimed its birthright. The Watchers had kept their promise and guided their people back to greatness. Now it was time for humans to take their place among the stars once again and show the galaxy what they had learned during their long exile in the darkness.